Okay, hi Lauren, good morning.
Morning, Pablo. Thanks for taking the time to have a chat.
Of course, I think you have a very interesting story and you have a very interesting business right now and venture. I would like to talk about it a little bit, but first of all, let's say this. What are you actually? What is your career and your venture about?
A lot of my experience really, Pablo, has come from obviously playing for many years, playing hockey for many years, and recently really making the transition from player to kind of coach. But what makes me a bit different from most hockey coaches is I don't just focus on improving your skills and training the tactical side of things, but I look at the areas where a lot of coaches kind of either don't fully understand or that they tend to neglect it. So a lot of my experience, even when I was playing hockey, I was in the fitness industry and I've always had a really keen interest in the psychological, the mental side of the game. So, now I'm working as a performance coach, and I'm mentoring players all around the world, from the UK, the US, Australia, and it's very, very fulfilling being able to kind of offer my services and my experience and my advice to up and coming players who want to get the most out of their game. That's correct, yeah. So how it works is there's online videos, which is really great for kind of the self-reflection part of it. So the teaching is kind of generic. And then what's really great about the program that I offer is we have a weekly interaction. So everything does get personalised. It's an opportunity for the members to then ask questions, and everything is obviously according to what they need at that time.
And what is the main struggle or the main advice that players seek to you, and what is what they want to accomplish? And why they contact you?
Often it'll be for a range of reasons, but what I tend to find the main barrier that holds a lot of people back is the confidence. Some people might be lacking confidence and not believing in themselves, whereas other people might have a bit of confidence, but they're lacking, not getting frustrated and not letting their emotions get in the way of their game. So a lot of it always tends to stem back to the mental side of the game. And often people are not aware of why they are not playing their best all the time, and why they're lacking that consistency, or why they're not believing in themselves. So really, what I look at doing with most of my clients is, let's get that side of the game sorted first, and everything else becomes so much easier. If you want to get fitter, it's not necessarily that you're not doing the right fitness, it's maybe just that you're not committed enough, or you just haven't kind of flipped that mental switch that you need to kind of be disciplined and to make sure that you do those things that you want to be doing.
What is the upside down of the game? If you have to give a quick advice to those players that might be struggling and might be looking for a change in their game, what would be, let's say, the top 5 advice you would give?
I think a lot of it does come down to the individual, so it's very difficult to say, this is exactly what you need to do, because what one person struggles with, they might have a limiting belief. It might be different for someone else. But in general, I'd say, it's important to recognise what your strengths are in your game. Often we kind of compare ourselves to other people, and if there's a great player in your team who dribbles through the whole team, it's not a great team play, but it's important to recognise what you do well. And I think that's the biggest thing, is we get kind of hung up on what everyone else is doing instead of focusing on ourselves and what we bring to the game.
And the results that you got so far with these players, how positive have they been?
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable, and the hardest part of my job is convincing people that what they can actually achieve. But once they've committed on the program, within a couple of weeks, you see amazing transformations. And it's not that they're doing anything differently necessarily in their game. It's just there. There's a mental switch. Something happens. It's that transformation of, actually, maybe I can go further, or actually I can get more out of my game.
And how long have you been doing this?
So I've been doing a little bit part-time. I worked in the UK for a number of years in the fitness industry, and I started kind of dipping my toes into it, say, probably about 3 or 4 years ago. The Hockey Performance Academy, which I'm working now, I'm doing it full-time, it's been going really for the last couple of years. So it's really great to see how it's growing, and the referrals that you get from people who've gone through the course is obviously, that speaks for itself, I suppose.
You mentioned a little bit before, you had a struggle when you got injured when you were training for the Olympic Games of 2012. Is that right?
That's right, yes. So that was actually, it was caused from a shoulder injury, which I've kind of struggled with my whole life. So that was actually genetics. My dad had shoulder problems as well, so the actual bone wasn't holding in the socket. So they had to take a bit of my collarbone and just extend it at the end of the shoulder just to kind of keep it in because it kept dislocating. And I hadn't actually had that problem for a number of years, and I think due to the intense training that we were undergoing, it was about 6 weeks before the actual game started that it dislocated. So, I look at it as there's two parts to it. One, I was very, very fortunate to still be included within the team. Obviously, the disappointing part of it was that I wasn't able to play. So I did still get to experience, the Olympic Village and the lifestyle and, meet lots of great athletes. But it has obviously given me amazing experiences and dealing with those setbacks. So now I look at it as a blessing in disguise, because if I hadn't have had that, I wouldn't be doing what I did now.
Correct. It's like you have a crash course on actually, or basically practice, real practice on how it's to suffer a setback and have to reset your head, your mind to be able to take on over the sport or actually make the best out of a situation, right?
Absolutely, and I think that's the thing, often, particularly youngsters, things don't go their way, they don't get selected, or, maybe someone says something to that kind of knocks their confidence. And I say, well, actually, sometimes we can use those things to our advantage. I find what I'm doing now is way more rewarding, fulfilling for me because I've kind of discovered a new part of myself and skills that I didn't know that I necessarily had. So it's about looking at the positive side of things, and I think that's huge in what I do with the people I work with as well. I teach them how to kind of have a different point of view or change their perspective to get the most out of that situation that they're in. So, yeah.
I assume that it was a moment that you could have sit back and be sorry about yourself for what you did, try to make the best out of this. Coaching, I have seen many players, or even I have seen coaches actually as well, that not even being injured, but just decide to focus on the negative side of, or their limitations more of their good qualities that they can explode. Is that something that you try to work on to try to generate an improvement?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of the biggest differences, and it's so easy, right? It's so easy to feel sorry for yourself. And when I dislocated my shoulder, I felt that. For the first hour, I thought why does this always have to happen to me? Because it's not the first time that I've been injured just before, a major event. And from that I've learned as well. I think there's a psychological barrier there which was stopping me from being successful. I don't know if you've heard of the fear of success.
Yes.
And so I've been made more aware of that, and I've learned a lot from that myself. So I think we've got to always look at not what happens to us, but how we respond in that situation. Do you grow and do you learn from it, or do you just kind of become a victim? And it's very easy to say that it always happens to me, life's unfair. But I can assure you, from the people or the successful people that I've met in my life, every single one of them has had setbacks, had failures, failed over and over again. And that determination and that drive to stay positive is what's kind of got them there eventually to achieve their goal.
So, for instance, I'm just thinking of how a player or how yourself, how you have felt at that moment. I imagine that you're training hard, you're with the team, you get injured and you're basically out of your game. I imagine that has to be a very lonely moment, and I imagine that many players go through that. It's like a crash moment, a lonely moment, and luckily now you can come in and help those people, right?
Absolutely, and actually prior to that, South Africa, we weren't professional hockey players. We weren't getting paid to play. At the time, I had to take off 6 months of work, which was unpaid. So, it was a massive commitment. And it's not just me, and a lot of the girls were in the same position where, they'd given up so much. I was fortunate that, I hadn't been in the process as long as a lot of the other girls. So for me, it was just about riding the experience and just trying to get the most out of that. So, and things aren't always going to be easy, but it's about, again, getting that mindset that causes you to hold on longer than everyone else, and staying positive no matter what happens to you.
We have seen that in your website. I'm going to put the website underneath, the website address. You give a lot of advice as well. Not only we have seen in terms of mental aspect that we've been discussing, but also in the fitness part. What is you're going to keep on doing things like this? I think that people like it a lot, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the feedback that I get back, I post something out. I try and do something once a week. I get a blog out there. and the feedback that I have is phenomenal. You know, I've got thousands of people on a newsletter subscriber. I've got, you know, thousands of visitors on my website, and people are very grateful for that. So yes, it is very useful advice, but it is, of course, only touching the surface. So, I mean, I've been in the fitness industry for over 10 years, and, you know, a lot of people don't understand how specific it is to train for your sport. You know, we look for training programs, whether it's to improve your strength or your fitness, and it's not always geared towards, you know, the stuff that you search for. It's not always geared towards hockey. And actually, you know, I would say I've seen a lot of injuries, not only myself, but through a lot of people in doing the wrong kind of training. So that's another huge message for me is making sure that you've got the right kind of training according to, you know, what age level you are, how much experience you have, what you're trying to achieve, and depending on what other things you've got going on. You know, with the youngsters nowadays, they're doing so much. So, you know, overtraining is causing 14, 15, 16-year-olds to get injured. And they haven't even started their, you know, their quest in terms of going further. So that's a huge concern for me, because I've been through that myself. So I want to help people and just say to them, you know, these are the things you should be doing, and follow something that's a little bit more structured than just a bit more random.
Okay, sounds very good. I think you're doing a really great job in this, and I see that. I really think that you're going to keep on growing in what you're developing.
Absolutely, no, it's exciting, and you know, it's growing for me, and it's just getting the word out there. And I've had a lot of good feedback from you know, coaches, from people pretty high up, you know, again, all across the world. So it's great that with technology nowadays, that you can reach not only people locally, but, you know, people that are struggling with a lot of these issues, and want to try and get more out of not only themselves in their sport, but also in their lives, because the mindset is the same whether you in business or whether you're in a relationship. You know, so many different aspects, even from communication skills and how to deal with other people. So that's my aim now, is just to try and get people to get the most out of their, you know, life's short, so we've got to make the most of the time that we have.
You told me before we started this conversation that there's a good article coming up next week.
Yes, so on this one, I've decided to try and get my clients or my members to do the talking. So it's something along the lines of 20 key lessons which you can learn in hockey. And like I said, it's literally taken from the horse's mouth. So it's not just me promoting, but actually what people have taken away from working with me and doing the program.
Understand. Okay, we look forward to reading about it.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you so much for your time, Pablo.